Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Investor. I'm Susie.
And I'm Michael, and we're excited you joined us for this adventure.
So today's very special guest is Tj Kosen. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. And it's been a pleasure chatting with you offline before the show, getting to know you a little bit more. But we want our Adventures family and listeners to know more about you. So would you mind sharing a little bit more about your background and why you started investing in real estate?
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of a crazy long story. I've been doing it way too long for as poor as I am. But I got started back in '06, like way back in the day, in multifamily. Actually, my first deal was like 112 units. And
Wow.
Wow.
what I always tell people is the only thing wrong with investing in 2006 is 2008 was like right around the corner. And everyone knows like mathematically about that, but they don't necessarily know like what's coming. So that's how I got started. That was fun. My second deal was actually 98 units. That was kind of crazy. I'm a little bit different now, like freaking 17 years later, I guess. So right now we're in the North Texas market. We market all over North Texas. We do out of state campaigns once in a while with kind of mixed success here and there, but our core competency is definitely high volume of wholesale, wholetails, flips, rentals, and some commercial, but not a lot. The kind of more stuff that we just bump into in our kind of North Texas area. I don't know. Got a team, acquisition team doing a bunch of deals. So it's kind of fun, right?
It is fun.
That is awesome. Yeah, absolutely. What, obviously, the burning question that everybody's wanting to know is like, why did you start with 112 units and then
Yeah.
96 and now going to like
Wholesale.
wholesaling?
You usually just see people do the opposite. So that's
Yeah.
why we're curious.
Yeah, it's well, again, getting a little burned in 2000, probably 8 to 11-ish, kind of getting out of stuff. The submarkets were definitely a challenge. And it was definitely like a big kind of mindset shift to go from scaling up and doing the same thing over and over and over again on a like apartment scale basis where you're buying literally the same stuff just for every single unit, obviously, as you guys know, to, well, shoot, now we want to do houses. Well, we need to make sure that this house like fits this neighborhood and fits the like color profile and the material like selection, that kind of thing. So it's definitely a mindset shift. Fundamentally, the reason was we lost money in the crash, and that wasn't fun, and then just didn't really feel like jumping back in. We liked the sort of liquidity, the easy in and out of the single family space, and I don't know, we're just really good at it. So we at this point, we kinda like staying in our lane. We do a lot of it. It keeps us sane, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How big is your team now?
Jeez, I don't know. So we're not trying to grow a massive, massive team. We tried the VA thing. Turns out we don't like follow up with cold calls. A lot of people really like teach and push that model. Actually just wrote a post on Facebook saying, if I wanted to make $1 million teaching stuff, I just teach people how to do cold calling. But I don't really believe in like that model as the best way to kind of keep your team lean. So we do a lot of online marketing, a lot of referral marketing, and a lot of inbound stuff. So it keeps our sort of lead gen like people to a minimum. We have my wife and I own the company, and then we recently partnered up with two friends of mine that are in the local market, been doing it about as long as me. So we kind of co-own the thing, and then we have an ops team. So an ops guy that manages CRM, lead flow, data, that kind of stuff. His wife actually is working for us, and she started out helping out with the education side of the business. But turns out she loves acquisitions. She comes from the high school field, so I guess she was a school administrator, and she's really, really good at talking to people. You get pissed off, like parents coming in yelling at you, and she's really good at just navigating that process, and she loves it. So she's doing a lot more of the acquisitions now. So let's see what else we got. We got a girl on Dispo, so she's doing a lot of the Dispo posts and stuff like that. And I think that's it. No, we actually have a third acquisition person we just picked up. So my wife and I on the kind of ops side, Nick and Tony, our business partners, kind of on the rehab ops side and on the acquisition ops side, respectively. And so he's kind of like the head acquisition guy. So he's got Jessica and another lady working under him for acquisitions. So it's a kind of lean team. We're not like trying to go crazy, not trying to get 20
Oh,
people in here. We're just trying to do, a lot of deals with not a lot of hassle.
So something that you said that kind of like stood out to me was how you said that your friend's wife, who was a principal teacher,
administrator.
Right. Right.
administrator.
Our ops guy's wife came on,
Yeah.
and yeah, as prince like a AVP or something. I don't know what else she was,
But like what's
but
cool
yeah.
is that like so many people are stuck in like a job title role. Like they think that because they were, say, just like a school administrator, that that's
Mhm.
all they can be for the rest of their lives. And like something that I really like is that she took her skills and just planted them into another position. And I think that's something super important that people have to think about because they only think like, oh, this is my one job title. This is all that I'm ever able to do. But that's not true ever. Like who you are as a person is the skills that you bring into each job title, but the
Abs-
job title has nothing to do with who you are.
no,
And then
absolutely.
second, this is more just a question. What is wholetailing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like
I was like, I have so much to say,
I mean,
but I really need to know. He
I-
said wholetailing, and then I was like,
yeah, I've heard that term before, and somebody's explained it to me before, but like I'm
oh.
sure our listeners are just like, what does that mean?
yeah. So for us, it kind of depends on who you ask. But for us, and we stumbled on it years ago, it's basically closing on a property. So closing on the property and doing something less than a flip exit strategy to it. So that means it's kind of a moving target. And it's actually working really, really well in this market, in this kind of phase of the market cycle, where I thought flips were going to keep moving relatively quickly going into the summer months. Like I think we all saw a slowdown if you were smart coming, like, probably beginning of this year. If you didn't see a slowdown coming, you probably weren't really paying attention with rising interest rates.
Yeah.
So we got rid of a bunch of inventory that was kind of speculative in the spring, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But so to answer your question directly, I guess wholesale is a less than blown out flip. So in North Texas, the best profile is like grandma's house that's livable. It's got a functioning HVAC, functioning roof, a relatively functioning foundation because we have foundation issues out here in North Texas. And then, but it's grandma's house. It's got like beige, like kind of, I don't know, maybe green carpet or something.
Yeah.
It's got wallpaper, but it's very, it's
As
very,
not carpet in the bathroom, we're okay.
Definitely that.
sometimes it does, but maybe we'll change it. Anyway, and then we put it on the MLS as relatively as is. We do minimal repairs to it. And then we shoot for a way below ARV, a way below like after repaired value price point with the product. And the benefit obviously for us is faster turnover because our money like turnover ratio is something we're pretty conscious of in the business. Some deals take a year to get paid and that's not fun. A wholesale can take, 30 days, 45 days. So the turnover ratio is a lot faster. The benefit for the end consumer is if it's a conventionally financeable property, generally they don't go FHA because we just don't own them that long. We try not to. But if it's conventionally financeable, then they can have some perceived sweat equity built into the property because they can go in there and, paint it themselves. The benefit obviously for the seller is it really depends on their circumstances. Maybe, I don't know. It's just, so maybe someone dies, unfortunate or whatever, but they don't want to deal with the crap in the house or they're just downsizing, upsizing, and just don't want to deal with the hassle. So there's the benefit to the original seller, seller A to B to us is the speed of the transaction and the lack of headache in the process. And then the benefit to us, aside from the faster turnover of our money, is definitely in the decreased transactional risk of doing a large, complex renovation and fundamentally, generally trying to hit the top of the market. And that's what I alluded to a second ago, is I thought even with the changes in the market coming up over the summer to kind of this fall now, in our markets in North Texas, I thought we'd see flips still move relatively quickly as long as they're priced really competitively. And it really is becoming a lot more neighborhood by neighborhood specific. And what's really interesting actually is we're actually seeing flips sit on the market longer, in my opinion, versus stuff that's kind of mid updated or like lived in updated is actually selling faster because of this perceived gap between the flip pricing and the kind of lived in updated grandma's house pricing. So we try to hit now that spot, the kind of sweet spot. And the cool thing is if we miss on the low side, even in this market, we're still getting multiple showings and we're getting bid up. If we miss on the high side, we're overpricing it a little bit, then we know pretty quickly, and we still probably get showings because we're below the full ARV pricing. So it's definitely a fun niche. We've been doing it for years, probably quite a few, but it's the disadvantages are if you have a really thrashed house, then you gotta understand like who is your buyer demographic or buyer profile for this property because you're not going to sell it to an end consumer if it's not livable. So then we have to scale back the pricing or do minimal repairs and kind of, like I said, kind of hit a moving target with the product.
Absolutely.
That's a
So
long answer.
yeah, no, absolutely. So just to recap, I think I got it. Like, so wholesale is like you literally get the property under contract, you find a buyer, and then you assign that contract to that buyer. That buyer closes on that property.
For the
You,
most part, yeah.
yeah, and then you,
No matter the state.
yeah, whatever you assign it to him for, that whatever you got it under contract for,
Yeah, we got the spread.
on it, that spread there is what you make for
Exactly.
for wholesaling. For wholetailing, is like you actually end up closing on the property, but then you then sell it relatively quickly after that process
Yeah.
for a higher value because you bought it undervalued to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
It works for us.
What's your favorite part about it?
The decreased risk with the rehabs, like we're again really good, unfortunately, at doing rehabs in North Texas. We've been doing it forever, but I don't like them. Like they're not really fun, right? You're sitting in a project for 3 months minimum, maybe sometimes 6 months. The longest ones, if it's really complex and big, is like 12 months. So you're waiting forever to get paid. I like getting paid quickly. And I like trying to mitigate and decrease the risk of the process as well as we can. So kind of the same reason, I guess, why I'm just not doing multifamily. I like the quicker turnover aspect of the single family products. And then we find that niche. And the reason we do it we favor that instead of wholesaling is because it puts us in a competitive advantage over other wholesale buyers if we have to offer seller concessions. So we'll offer seller concessions like a long-term lease back, like 2 months, because we can. But everything like that comes with a price. We're buying it at hopefully a further discount, or it's factored into the pricing because we're not necessarily afraid of evictions, even though we don't like them. It's an unfortunate part of, nature of the business. And so we're not afraid of that process, where a lot of end kind of investors that buy from wholesalers, buy from guys like us, they don't like they don't want to deal with the seller or any of the mess that the seller left. We're okay with dealing with that as long as we're compensated for it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And
speed.
yeah, speed. Love it. With how the current market is moving, with interest rates rising, things like that, like how is that affecting your flipping strategy?
And
You said,
wholesaling.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I
selling
think
a little bit faster, but still like those actual full term flips are like, let's stay on the market a little bit longer. So how is that affecting your strategy?
not doing a lot of blown out flips and buying better. So one thing that we've noticed with the kind of changing market is on the acquisition side. I think I counted yesterday. I think we have 24 active deals on the board that are either under contract or stuff that we own. So we kind of keep a pulse with what's going on and what's working. And obviously, one or two of those probably don't work as well as, a bunch of them do. So we kind of know like what's going on. But on the acquisition side, the heightened uncertainty in the market is giving us the ability to negotiate better with sellers, especially if we offer more of the kind of ancillary services like a longer term lease back, like leave all your stuff in the house, like a fast closing. You want to close in 3 days. They have titles able to get it done. We can do it. So those things are giving us the ability to negotiate better on the front end, fundamentally because the sellers now have less options in the marketplace. A lot of the iBuyers have tightened up. A lot of the hedge funds are kind of squirmy. And there's even in a market the size of DFW, there's only so many people that actually do a volume business where they're capable and willing to close on the transaction. So that gives us the edge on that side. Now, what you would think is, oh, we're just screwing Graham out of more money by buying better. I don't think that's the case because the market slowdown on that side is to our advantage, whereas the market slowdown on the retail or on the consumer side on the back end is not to our advantage. So I think the kind of the scale is just kind of sliding like that. We're able to buy better, but now we have more risk on the exit strategy than we did before. So we're kind of mitigating that on the front end, not to, get greedy and rich on one transaction. I don't think anyone wants to do that, but just to manage our risk on the back end. Because I mean, let's be honest, relatively recently for the past probably 3 years, a new investor could fail forward. And
Yeah.
everyone's talking about that. Man, I failed forward. I did this. I did like 25 things wrong and I still made 30 grand. I'm sitting here scratching my head going, no, dude, you didn't make money. Your market made money.
Yeah.
You're screwed. You don't even know it.
Yeah.
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 Like
So
that's
I,
the thing in multifamily, right? Is that like people are like, oh, I did a great job asset managing, but like
mm,
the market just doubled. Like
mm,
Austin, for example,
yeah.
100% increase.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously operations on multifamily, you raise rents, decrease expenses, whatever. But if cap rates compress from a 7 to a 6 to a 5, that's not you. That's just the market doing what it's doing. And the same thing with flipping now. If the market's appreciating it, well, Dallas was insane last year over COVID, right? And we used it to our advantage, but we knew what I think we knew what we were doing. We knew that we were getting lucky by having big licks on properties where they appreciated during the construction process. But other people that maybe didn't manage their construction cost and they're making their money, they're thinking they're doing a brilliant job. We're sitting there going like, we're not doing a brilliant job. We're lucking out over here and we're doing a good job down here where we're accustomed to being.
Yeah.
What advice do you have, like for people who just got into real estate investing, like in the last 2 years, where, like you said, right, if they more failed forward with like luck, like what would you say they should do like within the next year or two, or who knows, right? Because we don't know what the economy is going to do.
Next 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 6 months. I think we can predict more or less 6 months, relatively certainly. Past 6 months, it gets a little tough, I think. I would say if you're brand new, it's going to be a tough market to get into. So join up with a team that knows what they're doing, where you're able to make some repetitive transactional income. And I know you think it's maybe not sexy because you're giving up a piece, but you're actually getting a pie as opposed to competing with a lot of people that are mature in the marketplace and kind of know what they're doing. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go out on your own and, door knock and get some deals, but you're not going to have a high volume of deals right off the bat. So we bump into that a lot where new people want to go do it all themselves and like, hey, that's awesome. Here's how you do it yourself. But then they have to drive Uber to like pay rent. Like, ooh, for me, that's risky. Like, I don't like that personally, but I don't know. That's because I'm old and I have like a family and responsibilities, I guess. For folks that are newer, and I think it's about managing your risk and knowing your numbers and knowing what's likely to change on a sort of product basis on the exit strategy. So, what I mean by that, I think, is what we're seeing in the marketplace is stuff that would have sold day one and day, maybe not selling day one and day two anymore, selling, week 3 or 4 or whatever, or maybe sitting there for a couple months, competing against stuff that is selling day one and day two. And why is that stuff selling like quickly? Because things that haven't mattered for a long time are starting to matter, which is really weird, right? Functional obsolescence. So a galley kitchen competing with an open kitchen, the galley kitchen is going to not sell. It's just the facts of how it is. Whereas before, it didn't matter. Price per square foot and relatively comparable products, it doesn't matter. They're both going to sell because everyone wants to buy everything right now. So we're seeing stuff like that. School districts are coming back in a big way in North Texas. It actually bid us on a flip where we missed the top of the market and it sat there for a while. And I didn't even know why, but it's because we're literally like 800 feet outside the right school district. I was talking to a friend of mine, like, hey, why isn't this thing moving? And he told me that. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Things like that. Repairing to the price point. So if you want to do a less than full scale renovation, then make sure you're not charging full scale prices on the product. Make sure you're hitting a below ARV price. These things are going to matter huge. In terms of massive buying opportunities, you're still going to have to be competitive because it's still a competitive marketplace, tons of cash, tons of investors in the marketplace. But I think we're seeing a multiple exit strategy just being like happening no matter what is kind of leaving the marketplace. So folks that, hey, I tried to flip, now I have to rent it. Oh, shoot, the rental rates are higher than I thought they were going to be. Now I have to bring cash to close. Well, if you compound that over a bunch of deals, you can get into trouble. So buy better, know the exit strategies, and limit and mitigate the risk as well as you can. Because fundamentally, lending's not going away, hard money's not going away, the business isn't going away, but it is changing relatively rapidly.
That was a
Yeah.
lot. So
Well,
literally, I mean, like, if you need to rewind this, please do, because
mhm.
that was a lot of great
Yeah,
information.
I tend to ramble. I'm sorry.
No,
no,
there was
no.
no rambling. Every time you said something, I was like, uh, I needed to take notes this entire time. I was like, because that was super cool. So, like, and there is a lot that you shared in that a lot of people won't, because, like, when we talk about real estate so often, like, we hear like all of these great stories, and you were like, hey, I'm helping you literally so that you can tell a great story instead of like listening to others, even though there is a lot of hard stuff that happens within real estate. So thank you for that. That was big.
Well, the guys that fail and lose a shit ton of money, they don't generally, if they last long enough, they'll talk about it. But the ones that are, one deal and done, they don't really post about it on Facebook and brag about it. So we see the guys that are successful brag about it, and there's obviously a lot of hard work, but a little bit of luck that goes into that. So I tried to give people kind of a perspective on where I think things are likely to kind of go.
Yeah. I just wanted to hit on that point. Like Susie kind of brought it up a little bit before, is like people who are failing forward that we're seeing, like all of our multifamily operators and stuff like that in the space that we hang out in, like in these huge,
All the way from England.
yeah, yeah, like the Phoenix markets, the Sunbelt states, as well as like the Southeast, right? Like all
Florida,
these
yeah.
people who are like buying and then like holding and then like not really. They're like, oh yeah, I'm such a great asset manager, and because look what I did, right? Like they're like Susie and I buy in like in some areas that it's like very tough to asset manage and stuff like that, and that's why we do that. Because
Absolutely.
we're actually full on asset managing through this. But that's really cool. And then I also want to point out the point, or bring up the point that you said, like some things are softening in the market and stuff like that, where things are starting to matter that didn't matter before. We're seeing that in even the LOI submission process for multifamily, right? Like, so before we used to have to submit, and maybe this is very similar when you had to submit offers on houses as well. It's like when we submit an LOI, it's like we had to say, okay, $100,000 day one, hard money, with zero. And I mean, when you put hard money down, it doesn't really matter. You don't get really a due diligence.
Yeah.
But it used to be, 30 days of due diligence, and then your money goes hard and things like that. Well,
Hmm.
like during this crazy buying process in the last like 18 months, it had to been, well, before the interest rates started rising, the 18 months prior to that, like it had to be like, you know, 6 figures, hard money, whatever, like all these weird terms that never existed.
Hmm.
But now we start to see easing of that. And we're starting to see, okay, now we're actually having buyers are having a little bit more control. They're saying, okay, no, I'm going to actually spend 45 days to do deal, 30 to 45 days of due diligence period, and then to give us 90 days to close or whatever. Are you seeing something very similar in the single family market, where I know there's like escalation clauses and things like that for residential properties as well. But
Yeah, sort of. Touching on that, I think so. We have a big meetup every quarter out here, and one of the speakers was a high end broker at the last one, a high end broker in the local market, and he's been around, a long time. And he said, "Hey, all you guys that have gotten in the market in the past, and I think this is kind of across the board, almost all you guys that have gotten in the market, maybe since COVID, maybe a year before COVID, what we're experiencing now in the real estate market is what's called a normal market, because." Things like multifamily used to be, like you said, 30 days of lease due diligence with a lot smaller, hard EMD, an option to extend with a further EMD deposit, that kind of stuff. A 90-day closing on a multifamily property or even 120-day closing was not out of the question in a more normalized market. So I think we're seeing that definitely normalize some. Now, the extent to which it probably normal is normal somewhere in the middle. And if keep going, you go, I guess, somewhere below normal. So hopefully, we don't really know for sure where that's going to be. I think it goes back to obviously we don't do LOIs, but we will do a lot of, we've had several where we'll do kind of an option. And if it's a product that we have a cash price, right? And we guarantee pretty much that we'll buy at our cash price because we buy a lot of houses, and we'll tell a seller that upfront, hey, our cash price is this, then, that's where we need to be. Oh, I don't know, that's not going to work. We'll say, hey, well, we do the wholesale thing and we explain it, in kind of layman's terms. Maybe we can get some investors in here and we can help you try to move the product at the price that you think you want and have that conversation. And we'll do something short and be completely honest about it. We'll say it 7 to 10 day. We don't go in there day one and try to overshoot. We have other folks that, we compete against people who do, and then they walk the price back down. We'd rather be a little more upfront and say, cash price, we know we can close. We're comfortable with this, no problem. Option price, we're going to try to move it for you. We're going to bring a couple of people through, but try to minimize your hassle as well as we can. Because fundamentally, there's a reason you're coming to us instead of a realtor to move the product, is because you don't want to deal with a lot of the hassle. And we even tell, hey, and then in that process, we'll get offers. If we get offers below our cash price, then you probably better take our cash price. If we get offers above our cash price, but they're below their price, we'll just have a conversation. Say, hey, we'll lay all the cards on the table. We're doing a lot of that. And what we're finding is some sellers go with a higher offer from a wholesaler that overpromises and is not able to move the product. That's fine. Maybe they come back to us. Maybe they don't. And we're going, in fact, I think we're up against one that we just locked up last week. No, earlier this week. Our cash price was 200. Seller wanted 225. We were up against someone else that actually said, hey, 225, but option period. We said 200, no option period. And we told them we'll match the 225, but we need the same option period to do it. And they flat out said, I just want the cash. I want the 200. Like, hey, no problem. It doesn't matter to us. So just being that open and honest in the negotiation process, where we're not promising the moon if we can't deliver the moon. And conversely, if someone's way, way low on what they can get out of the thing, maybe we'll throw them an extra 5 or 10K or, whatever it is, because fundamentally we want to be fair.
Yeah.
And we don't want them to shop us, obviously. So that's definitely helping to our advantage in a big way with the acquisition process. On the sales side, man, I don't want to crap talk realtors too much, but we are experiencing, I think I saw a stat that 30% of the realtors in our North Texas market have only been doing it maybe 3 to 4 years. So basically kind of right before or post COVID. And I'm not saying anyone should never jump into a market if they want to work their butt off and be successful. I think that's an awesome opportunity, but just that much competition inherently means that there's going to be a lot more low level on the skill spectrum people competing in a marketplace and don't know what they're doing. So on the dispo side, we're spending a lot of time. My wife is spending a ton of time because she does all the listings, educating realtors on the process, knowing that if they have 7 days to do inspections and then ask for repairs, and then they come back and, we do all that, we lock it up or whatever. And they come back 2 weeks later. Hey, what about this and this and this? Like, you missed the boat on that, dude.
yeah,
Like you forgot to ask. And if it's something small, we'll try to be accommodating. But if it's something insane, then it's like, nah, we still price well where we're going to get other offers. So there's a lot of education process we're doing with newer agents. Our last, quite a few, I would say 70% of our deals over the past 3 months on the retail side, so on the MLS, have been negotiating with agents that are relatively new, been doing it 9 months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. So we're doing a lot of education with them about the process, not to make us more money, because the price is the price, obviously, in terms of like what the market sets, but in terms of like them understanding what the actual process is to get the deal done. Because a lot of realtors think it's sexy to show houses and isn't it fun and exciting? We're doing all this stuff. But fundamentally, I believe a realtor's job is to facilitate the transaction and set the expectations. And if a buyer's agent isn't good at those two things, it doesn't mean overlook stuff. It doesn't mean push things through that shouldn't be pushed through, but it means understand the transactional process and walk through that process with the client because you're supposed to be the professional. So we're seeing a lot of that. That's definitely kind of a mix up in the market that's new in the past, probably. It's been picking up probably this year. So probably like 6, 9 months, it's been picking up, and it's been definitely picking up over the past, like over the summer, like the last 3 months.
I think it shows like a lot of credibility on the sales side, right? Like when you are that honest, because one, word of mouth is huge, but two, like if, well, I mean, I guess that's the biggest part, right? Like when you show honesty, like people remember that and talk about that. Like, so if anyone else in their circle has to do the same thing, like you come up. And so that always, always, always wins. It really does. So that, I like that.
Well, thank you. You can be shady on a transactional level, I guess, if you're a single operator, and you can get away with it for a while, and you can even be shady and be legal. But it's really tough to do a volume business in a market that's sounds funny, but as small as DFW, we bump into the same people all the time. We'll see a deal. We had our own deal. It's actually pretty funny. I'll text you the picture. We had our own deal come to us from a wholesaler, literally that we closed on that we actually own. She texted me on Facebook like, "Hey, what about this?" Obviously way higher than we sold it for. They got daisy chained, and scratched my head going like, I literally pointed my board, take a picture of it and send it to her. Be like, I think I already own that house, and I don't want it for that price. And that doesn't
Yeah.
and I'm not saying there's shade in that aspect of it. She was actually very like, that was a very nice conversation, and we worked out what the issue was. But it just shows like how small the marketplace really is, even in a city the size of DFW, which is, I don't even know, 7 million people or something like that. The people that are doing volume, we bump into all the time.
Yeah,
Wow.
can imagine. Can imagine for sure. Well, TJ, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you so far. We are moving towards the end of the show, which brings us to the adventurous four. These are 4 exploratory questions we ask all of our guests. So if you're ready, TJ, we'll move into those.
Yeah, bring it on. Let's go.
Awesome. All right. So the first question is, where is one place you wish to travel to and why?
Man, I've traveled a lot. I've actually never been to like Eastern Europe. I want to go to Poland and some of those little fun countries over there. Yeah, that'd be fun. I haven't done that yet.
I love that.
So what is one thing on your bucket list and how are you leveraging real estate investing to achieve it?
Oh, that's a good question. My only thing on my bucket list is hopefully I have 2 kids, one that's 3.5 and one that's just a little over 1. And I'm a little bit old. I'm not old, but I'm like 41. So, whatever. And my only objective on the bucket list is provide them with the skills to be successful in their lives that so they can approach the marketplace or approach whatever they want to do with like just a successful outcome. Because you sit through something like 2008, you sit through World War II, you sit through whatever it is, there's always kind of a black swan thing that can devastate this generational wealth that we're all trying to build and trying to work towards. And if you don't have the skills to survive that, then I think you're screwed generationally. If you have the skills to survive that, hopefully you have the skills to maintain what we are building in our generation to pass on. But I don't think that's nearly as important as providing them the skills to just make it happen. I saw the statistic. I actually have it on a presentation. I forget the exact numbers, but when you look at how many millionaires are first generation millionaires, huge. It's like something like 86%. When you look at percentage of second generation inheritance of wealth to lose it all, it's something massive. It's something like 60%. And now first generation is something like 60%, I think, and second generation is something like 90% or somewhere in that vicinity. So unless you pass down the skills to go do it on your own, then I don't think, I just kind of think you're screwing around. That's the only thing on my bucket list. I've traveled a lot. I've done a lot of cool shit. Like, that's fun, but I don't get off on it anymore. I like that aspect of life.
Yeah, and
That's really
even
cool.
like because we all know a black swan event is going to occur. We just don't know what it is. But none of us are actually prepping at all, like for it, because it could be a lot
Yeah,
of different things.
absolutely.
Yeah, one of the base tenets of like Stoicism, which is like my religion, if you will.
We're gonna get along great. Come on,
Yeah.
man. Hang out, play golf, and talk
Play
philosophy.
golf and talk Marcus Aurelius.
Let's do it.
Like one of the big tenets of that is like always prepare for the worst. Like you always have to think about the worst outcome so that when they do actually happen, you're prepared for them. You're like, this is what's supposed to happen, and here's how I prepared. And
And I don't think it's about being pessimistic. I think or even fatalist. No, it's not. It's like we're okay with the outcome. It doesn't mean we don't want to have control of the outcome. We don't want to we want to maintain as much control as we can on the process.
Yeah.
But we understand there's a lot of crap out there, literally 100% outside of our control. And the only way to get peace about how to live your life is to realize what is inside your control and then manage and mitigate your risk with the stuff that's not inside your control.
Absolutely. I was just reading a quote today. We're getting a little stoic here at the end of the podcast. But
Yeah,
I'm talking about being an optimist or whatever, right? Like, but there's a quote from Marcus Aurelius. He's like, real optimists bear in mind constantly that all this has happened before and it will happen again, right? So like this Marcus Aurelius, like in his meditations, right?
Absolutely.
This has happened before. It will happen again. Like
And he said that
optimist part of
1800, 2000 years ago. He said it a while ago.
yeah,
There's been a lot of time between. It's like it keeps doing it.
yeah,
Right?
absolutely. So, anyways, take the intermission there. So, the third question we have for you, TJ, is what is one piece of advice for someone who wants to start passively investing in real estate?
Passively. Oh, I don't think I've nailed that one yet. I would figure out what kind of ROI you want, and then figure out if because we see on Facebook, oh, I got 10 grand to invest. Like I don't know what to do with 10 grand. Buy gas and knock on doors. Um, Figure out what tangible asset you have that you bring to the table for an investment vehicle. Figure out what kind of return you want, and then figure out if that's realistic.
That's
Because
actually really good.
active income should always surpass passive income unless you're screwing it up. If you want to make a lot of money, work your butt off. Even starting with zero, starting with no money. It's not that difficult. It just takes a lot of work. And then go from there. Buy a rental. Go out there and do it. But go out there and do it. Don't worry about the market. If you buy based on the numbers that are here now, then the product is probably fine. And we're not really going to have a massive crash, I don't think, in the residential field. So buy a rental. And then realize that your passive dream is not passive because now you have tenants and toilets and trash. But if you buy it right, you pay someone else to deal with that shit. And it's not that big a deal.
Yeah,
Really.
absolutely.
So, and the fourth and final question is, if you had unlimited resources available to you, how would you leave an impact?
Not here to change the world. I'm here to raise my family. I'm here to have some fun doing it. And I don't know. There's not that many people I know that actually leave an impact. I think so. Here's my thing. I think people that leave impacts on life, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, like him or love him, leaving an impact on other people. Again, like it or love it, whoever it is, Obama, whatever. The ones that are like astronomically successful, and generally in the business world, maybe not so much in politics because that's a lot more self-serving, but generally in the business world, Elon Musk, I don't think is trying to leave an impact. Well, I think now he is, but I don't think he started out doing that. I think he started out saying, okay, here's a market need that I can fill, that I'm really, really good at, that I can hopefully make some money at.
Mhm.
And like, I don't want to say exploit, but use that to everyone's advantage. And then that's going to impact these other lives over here. Now you get to a certain level, you get to the richest man in the world, then you can be a little weird. You can be like, oh, we need to go colonize Mars because this planet's screwed.
Yeah.
Like, I personally think it's probably easier to fix this planet before it is to go figure out how to put an atmosphere on Mars, but that's just me. But I think people that generally change the world, actually George Washington, right? A hero of mine, a lot of flaws, but I don't think you went out there to change the world. I think you went out there to do the thing that you went out there to do. And then the thing they did ended up changing the world as a consequence. So I think it's kind of putting the cart before the horse to say, I want to go make an impact. Man, not really. If I end up making an impact, that's awesome. But I'm really more concerned about the people within my sphere that we can help, being fair to them, impacting them, and leaving them hopefully a memory once I'm gone.
I love that.
I do too.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a really
so
good
cool.
answer. I liked that.
Thank you.
No,
I-
dude.
yeah, that's
Someone
brilliant.
I should go into meditations.
There you go. My training meditations book,
Right?
2022. Well, TJ, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, learning more about wholesaling, hoteling,
I'm telling
Holiday Inn.
Oh,
wholesale, hotel,
No.
holiday Inn. Anyways, 40 puns, but
I get that. Oh, you're in hotels? Like, no, I don't know anything about hotels.
I thought he was just singing.
no, it's
correctly.
like the ludicrous song or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Whole tail. I'm like, you're not wrong.
Anyways, before we end the show, TJ, would you mind sharing with our listeners how they can reach out to you or get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Super simple. If you're in the North Texas market and if you haven't been to one of our mixers or networking events, come on out. We do those quarterly. They're awesome. They're a lot of fun. A couple hundred people, great speakers. So that's always a fun time. If you want to reach out personally, individually, I'm all over Facebook. So Tj Kosen, Instagram at Tj Kosen, I think. Email me, tj.kosen at gmail. So super easy to get a hold of. And that's it. Anyone that wants help with like kind of building your business or looking at stuff, we offer a lot of things in that field that, people get some value from too. So I'd love to have any kind of conversation out there.
No, that is super awesome. And thanks for like sharing all of those ways to contact you. Like, please, please, please do. Cause I mean, I like you even talking about it. I was like, I want to go to a meetup.
Hundreds of people?
Yeah, well,
Great speaker.
that part, I was just like,
Yeah.
like the energy you bring is phenomenal. So thank you,
Well, thank you.
again for joining us. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, guys. Well, thanks so much for having me, Michael. Thanks so much, Susie. I really appreciate it. I had a great time.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks again, TJ. Appreciate it. Until next time, explore more, adventure ways.
Perfect.
Woo!